So we're in central East Austin. And if you drive around this neighborhood, there are a lot of houses from the 1920s. I actually grew up in a bungalow in East Austin, and they're sort of beloved structures to me. And I wanted to preserve that for what it is. And I thought the new studio could perch on the bungalow below.
Why do you call it the Perch?
I just think it's that's just what the building is doing. It's like a bird perched on the bungalow itself. And the birds actually love sitting on the roof. Like, it's pretty common when I come that a bird is sitting up there and kind of gently swaying. So the existing bungalow is like a typical 2-bedroom, 1-bath space. And so they just needed some extra room. And they wanted to be able to stay on property during construction. So in order to build a structure and still let the client maintain use of the bungalow below, we engineered it so that the perch sits on 4 steel columns and 3 of them pierce through the existing bungalow below. And actually this one larger window here was our only access point to the bungalow during construction.
So you just put the new unit right on top. It's like it landed here.
Yeah, the funny thing is it actually pierces through, and these columns go through the wall and to the foundation, and they tie the bungalow foundation with the perch foundation so that they're acting together. And the bungalow is actually helping the perch resist lateral forces, which is what allows it to cantilever and to hover the way that it does. Because it was important to the owners to stay on property and to not disturb their landscape, the steel subcontractor had the idea to shop build the steel structure, and those steel components were craned into place and welded in a single day. So the clients didn't have access to this one room while we were redoing the foundation and installing the steel. But immediately after that, we closed and sealed up that space, and they had access to it again.
Really? So this whole structure came in a day?
Yeah, they hardly touched the site at all. It was pretty incredible.
It's like, I do feel like it's almost like a lunar landing, right?
It can feel like that, yeah. So the perch sitting on these 4 steel columns that pierce through the bungalow below pushes that front room, cantilevers it a pretty long distance. So it's designed to move. When someone is walking up this stair with the 4 steel columns to support the entire structure, structurally, to make that work, there's a little bit of a give or a movement. For me, I really love that effect because it reminds me of just the environment that it's in and its construction.
Yeah. So you can just see it's raised off the ground. I mean, you're not touching anything.
The owner said people walk up all the time and don't even notice that gap. They have to point it out.
Oh, really?
And I think it's because they think it's just something you're not used to seeing, so your mind doesn't connect that it's cantilevered.
And not even just cantilevered, that it's like not sitting on the house or anything. It's all on stilts.
No, yeah, we intentionally wanted to disrupt the site and the existing bungalow as little as possible. So the design of the perch with that kind of extra space below that you don't normally have also allowed us to, in this really tiny footprint, to vault the ceilings and get more volume and the feeling of a much bigger space. So come on in.
All angles. I love it.
I know. So this room is less than 10 feet wide, but I think it feels a lot bigger because of the proportions and the height in the center. And I think it would feel very different if it was all 14 feet, but it's at its lowest point It's like 5.5 feet and it climbs to about 13.5.
Wow. So was this because of the height limits that it had to slope so much? I mean, that you could go higher?
Yes, we're hugging the City of Austin setback tent, the maximum height, but it also just makes for a really cozy space. You feel like you're in a little tree house up here, I think. One of the reasons we chose this corrugated metal siding was the size of the corrugation is very closely matched to the siding of the bungalow below. It's also low maintenance. So we knew with a structure like this that it wasn't going to be easy to repaint. So we wanted to pick a material that would be easy to maintain over the years. All of the existing steel in the house is left exposed and painted white. So here in the kitchen, you can see this is a structural steel beam that we left exposed. I think of it as a very hardworking beam. It supports the second floor above. It also supports this open shelf. It allows our countertop to go deep for extra storage. All the cabinetry is IKEA with custom fronts, which is very affordable. And we did a recessed copper pull, just something very simple that would disappear. There's a built-in refrigerator here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and freezer. And
All cabinet.
yeah, and actually another one of my favorite features is this broom closet. Like even a small space needs a broom closet and it kind of just fit perfectly. This handrail is also bent and it also has a little bit of a give as you walk up the stair. So now we're on the upper level. So currently the homeowner is using this space as a workspace. She cuts hair.
Oh, so this is like a lofted hair salon.
Her clients love coming up here, she said. Really, the purpose of the Perch is to be flexible. Yeah. So that as their needs change, the function of the Perch will change. Yeah. So you can see this steel beam carries through this upper level. So you can see it on the wall in her studio space and across the stair and into the bath. So this small nook, the owners are currently using it as an office.
Tiny office.
We actually just installed this desk this week. Prior, it was where she had a chair and she'd use it as a drying station for her, for her salon. I think one way to make a small space feel bigger is to design an even smaller space within, because you have this even smaller space to retreat to, and then you can kind of open up into a larger space like the living room. And I think this is just the perfect vantage point for seeing people as they enter. And so this is a wall of storage. In bedrooms or in spaces, I usually like getting that rising morning light, that eastern sun. So both rooms extend enough to get that morning light. And then the owners, since they wanted to keep their backyard private, this became the primary viewpoint where they're facing the street. And a view back down to the stair if you need to. And this is that front cantilevered room. When someone's walking up the stair, you can really feel like a slight movement in this space in particular.
Wow, it really moves. You feel it move. That's great. Does that scare like the owner or anybody? Like, oh, the house is
It's
moving?
designed that way, so they get it now, I think. You're not used to that, so it feels different, you notice it. But this is what trees do all the time. And structurally, the way steel works, it can deflect and still perform. And so one of the ways we were able to achieve that perch feel was by keeping the columns together, allowing them to pierce through the bungalow below and tie down to the foundation. And one of the results of that construction is that its extremities can gently sway a little bit in the wind or when someone's moving on the edges. But it's designed with a little bit of movement. And so that's why I designed some of these other elements with a little bit of give. The bathroom is in the center of the space, so it moves the least. Because it was in the center, we knew we couldn't have a window, so it was important to me to bring some natural light in. So I designed this pretty large skylight. And I knew that the steel beam was there, but I thought, let's just add the skylight and the beam, you know, let's not try to avoid it. Get as much light in here as we can. The stucco also, I think, kind of picks up on that kind of calmer material palette throughout the house. And it allowed this small shower to feel, again, bigger because all of the surfaces are treated volumetrically. They're treated the same. One of my favorite details that I like to do in showers without benches is to build a little shaving niche. So that's what this kind of shorter niche is. Another that I love, this custom mirror is shaped, again, to echo the shape of the building. And then you feel like you're mirroring yourself in the building. Another one of probably my absolute favorite feature is this coat rack. There was a steel beam that the structural engineer could not hide. I was a little bit afraid that it would be a trip hazard when people were entering. So I designed this coat rack, which is just steel that's welded to it. And again, I love how it echoes that movement of the building itself, kind of a perch within the perch.